Welcome to Today's Homeowner with Danny Lipford. Expert advice on improving your home from the pages of Today's Homeowner magazine and remodeling contractor Danny Lipford.
Well, I guess it's obvious what we're looking at this week. Defective hardboard siding. You can see it on the side of the house and what kind of condition it's in. Well, that's a problem all over the country with many of the hardboard sidings. And we'll show you a good alternative. Instead of replacing this with hardboard, we're going to replace it with a fiber concrete siding. It's a great product, and we'll show you all about that, as well as a number of other alternatives for exterior surfaces. And a little bit later, I'll give you some great tips on how to maintain the exterior house to where your house won't end up looking like this one. Stay with us. Well, the work has already started on this side of the house to remove the lap siding to prepare for the new lap siding going on. All the scaffolding, the first stage of it, has been established here so that the carpenters can come in and remove this lower part of the wall and replace the siding. Now, the hardboard siding on this house is very much like much of the hardboard that was installed back in the 70s and 80s. Unfortunately, a lot of defective siding was installed at that time, and also some very poor installation. Now, this is somewhat of a severe case of failure, with the actual lap siding swelling up real big and buckling off the wall, which allows water to get down behind the siding and potentially cause some real structural damage. Now, the homeowner here had a number of options in taking care of this problem. Could have replaced it with the same hardboard siding, which has gotten a lot better over the last few years. Or he could have gone with a wood siding that looks similar to this. A lot of maintenance involved in wood siding. What he chose is fiber cement siding. Recently we were at a building supply expo and talked with the manufacturer about what exactly is fiber cement siding.
Fiber cement siding by James Doherty Building Products is composed of a fiber cement technology that is primarily Portland cement, sand, and cellulosic binding materials. The product, as a result, will not warp, rot, swell, crack, delaminate. It is termite resistant, it is non-combustible, and the product is available with a 50-year warranty. In addition, because of its composition, the product will hold paint significantly better and longer than what you'd find in a wood-based product, up to 3, 4, 5 times longer. Lap siding generally comes in exposures, anywhere from 4.5 inches up to 9.5 inches. Hardy plank is available in all those profile exposures. Also, as you can see here, we have several textures, including our select cedar mill texture, our colonial rough sawn texture, as well as a smooth texture. So we're in pretty good position, especially where a homeowner wants to just replace 4 or 5 courses of the house, of the damaged wood-based siding, to go pick up the material that they want and match what's already existing on the home.
Now, it makes it a lot easier to install the fiber cement siding if you store it in a nice dry spot, as we have here in the garage. Now, the method that John had mentioned about removing several pieces of siding and replacing it with the fiber cement siding is a great idea. I've done this quite a bit myself, particularly around the lower portions of the house where the backsplash from the rainfall going against the siding really will deteriorate it. When you replace it with the cement siding, you don't have to worry about that anymore. And with the different varieties of finishes that they have with the siding, you should have no problem matching the siding you have on your home. Now, when you think of fiber cement, you may think of it being very heavy, but this is available only in 12-foot lengths, and it's just a little heavier than the actual hardboard. This one also has a little reveal line or exposure line so that you can line your next piece right on the line, and it's very uniform when you're installing it. Now, cost-wise, it may surprise you that this material is generally slightly less in cost than the regular hardboard, and the installation is essentially the same. But before anything's installed, the old has to come down. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Get ready to review your fix-it list as Danny and today's Homeowner Magazine repair and maintenance editor Joe Truini show you this week's simple solution. Brought to you by Dodge.
Now, if you use a finishing sander like this around your house, sooner or later you're going to tear the paper. Now, Joe has some great tips on how to prevent tearing that paper so often.
That's right, Danny. The problem with a finishing sander like this is that the edges of the paper are exposed on the sides of the tool. But you'll notice in the rear and the front of the tool, the paper is tucked up under paper clamps. So all you need to remember is always move the sander parallel with the wood grain. If you turn it sideways, you're much more likely to catch an edge on a splinter and tear the paper.
Now, sooner or later you will tear the paper or just wear it out, and it can be very time-consuming removing that pad and putting another one on. But Joe has some other ways of making that a little quicker as well.
That's right. When you load new paper onto the sander, always put 2 or 3 pieces on. Then when one wears out or tears, you simply rip off the old sheet and expose a fresh sheet of paper. This tip can also be used for other sizes of finishing sanders, including half-sheet orbital sanders.
Now, the carpenters started the installation of this like you would start the installation of any lap siding. After the wall has been thoroughly cleaned of any old nails, they start the first piece very, very level, using it level, as well as you can see the paint line from the old siding gives you a good indication of where that piece of siding needs to start. Now, the nailing they're doing is called blind nailing. This means that once all of the nails are in and the next piece of siding is lapped over it, you won't really be able to see these actual nails. Now, the nails we're using to install the siding are a 2-inch galvanized roofing nail. The large head on the nail really gives good support on the surface of the siding, but you need to make sure when nailing any kind of lap siding that you're hitting either a stud or some good solid sheathing on the outside of the house. Now, the cutting of this material is much easier if you use a diamond tip blade, which can cost as much as $200, but a carbide tip blade will also work. Of course, safety goggles and a mask are recommended. It's okay with fiber cement siding to butt your joints tightly because there is virtually no expansion or contraction of this material. Now, this isn't the same with wood siding or some hardboard sidings because expansion and contraction will definitely take place with these materials. Now, but when you're attaching the siding against a wood trim like this on the corner board or around a window, leave at least an 1/8 of an inch gap to allow for that expansion. Also, it's perfect for the painter to be able to come back with a good acrylic caulking and fill this void in to really seal up this end of the siding. Also, when you're nailing, make sure you allow a safe distance away from the edge of the board as well as the end of the board because it can be brittle at some of these points. Now, when you're installing lap siding, you do need several people. One person down on the ground cutting the material and handing it up to at least 2 or 3 people that'll be nailing it, and good scaffolding will make the job go a lot quicker. But with the right crew and the proper scaffolding, you can complete the removal and replacement of the siding on an entire side of a house like this in about a day and a half. They've just completed the other side of the house. Let's see how it turned out. Now, since we started the re-siding of this house, the homeowner's already started on his new paint job. You can see the nice peach color contrasts well with the light blue shutters. Great color combination. But in the process of the paint job, the homeowner found a number of water damaged areas. One right on the handrails. You can see how the non-treated wood has really deteriorated over the years with all the water that's flowing down in there. Of course, the alternative to non-treated wood is treated wood. You can see how he's repaired this side of the handrails using 2x2s, which are readily available now, should work real well once this is primed and painted. But one of the problems besides the wood being non-treated that caused that side and this side to deteriorate so quickly is the lack of trimming of the landscaping. All of the bushes that are pressed up against this wood will not allow it to dry adequately after a rain has occurred, so it's a perfect haven for water damage to occur. So we've suggested to the homeowner to have his landscaper or himself to go back and cut these back 10 or 12 inches to allow good flow of air and some good sunshine to get in there and dry this out. Now let's look at this other side. Now we've worked out a situation on this side of the house that we're leaving the scaffolding all in place to give the owner an opportunity to finish all of the painting. This will make it a lot easier to access this and much safer. Now stay with us. When we come back, we'll tell you about a lot of other alternatives for siding on the exterior of your house.
It's time to check out this week's best new product with Danny and today's Homeowner Magazine Editor-in-Chief, Paul Spring.
At first glance, it looks like a regular medicine cabinet, but it's far more than that, isn't it, Paul?
It sure is, Danny. This is the Cabfit CLR from Roburn, and it is one of the most versatile and deepest and roomiest cabinets I've seen in a long time. $99 at the Home Center.
Now, I love it the way it has the mirror on the inside and on the back and, of course, on the front of it. A lot of people really like that. And also, the adjustable glass shelves are so easy to adjust for different heights that you may have on whatever you may want to store in here.
They do, Danny, and not only beyond that adjustability is just the amount of room in there. There's actually room for a blow dryer by adjusting those shelves because of all the depth in there. And that depth really comes from kind of a cabinet within a cabinet. First you've got this area which sits outside the wall, and then another 14 by 18 square that sits inside the wall. It gives you a depth of over 5 inches.
Yeah, and I notice all the little areas to put toothbrushes and different things all along, even a little pill shelf up here on the top.
Exactly, it's a great way. There's so many little things that go in a medicine cabinet like this. It's a great way to organize them. In addition to that, so many medicine cabinets like this are made out of metal, and what you end up seeing is a lot of rust. With a plastic here, you're not going to see that. Years come.
If you're in the market for a medicine cabinet, remember this one. Well, on this side of the house, all of the fiber cement siding has been completed, and earlier in the day, the homeowners had a pressure washing company out to pressure wash and clean all of the freeze board, the corner board, soffit areas, window trim, and after a little bit of drying time, it'll be ready for the painting to proceed. Now, if you have a home that you'd rather have an exterior that doesn't require painting, well, there are some alternatives. The most popular is vinyl siding. Now, recently, we visited a house that's having vinyl siding installed, and we spoke with Shane Cameron, who's a vinyl siding supplier, about why vinyl siding is so popular. Now, Shane, I see they're installing the vinyl siding over hardboard siding. What's really driving the popularity of this vinyl siding?
Danny, I'd have to say it's maintenance-free. I mean, that's probably one of the most important things about vinyl siding and what drives this market. And the cost is less expensive than a lot of products that are out there today.
Now, if a homeowner makes the decision to use vinyl siding on a remodeling project like this or on a new house, what are some of their options and what are some of the questions they need to ask?
They need to ask a lot of questions. There's a lot of different type contractors and a lot of different type products. There's approximately 30 different manufacturers of vinyl siding out there, and they offer a lot of different styles and a lot of different colors out there in the market. As a matter of fact, the product that we have out here today is the product we're using, and it's a thicker remodeling grade product that allows you to...
That is real good and thick there.
Exactly. And in some new construction applications, they may use a less thinner product, obviously for cost reasons, but that might not be right for every application. So you need to ask that question. It's very important.
Okay. I know installation is also a key concern. Any kind of building products that you have is only as good as the installation. I'm sure that plays the same role here.
Absolutely. You need to check into the contractor well, because a lot of times basically you want to find out a lot about that contractor. You maybe can find out from the local organizations as to what kind of reputable contractor you may have out there. And it's very important to choose the right one.
And also that plays into the warranty guidelines. Tell us a little bit about warranty.
Absolutely. Manufacturers all warrant their products usually for a lifetime with vinyl siding. And basically what you want is to make sure that you get a quality installer so that the warranty is not void at a later period. The installation has to be done correctly so that the warranty can be processed.
Okay, all right. What about maintenance? I mean, over the years, I'm sure there's, some cleaning necessary?
Yes, there is. There's basically some small cleaning necessary that would be maybe pressure washing over a 2-year period or so that would allow you to give it back to its original status.
Okay, all right. What about cost? Now, on a house like this, what would you expect to pay? I know the different grades and different styles would change the cost a little bit, but on the average, what are you expected to pay for vinyl siding?
The different grades are important in that aspect because basically you've got everything from the lower end to the top end, and you need to make those decisions. I'd say that probably starts in the neighborhood of about 160 a square and goes up to 250 a square depending on the product and application.
Okay, and a square is a 10 by 10 area, 100 square feet.
Exactly.
Okay, great information. Thanks a lot, Shane.
Thanks.
Now that's a great point Shane made on carefully choosing a vinyl siding contractor. Take your time and really check some references. You may start by getting some names from some friends or co-workers, or call your local home builders association for some good recommendations. Also, a vinyl supply company in your area knows the good guys that do the good work. Now there's other alternatives for surfaces on the exterior house that require no painting or staining. They include brick or stucco. Of course, they're the most expensive. Now let's look at some of the costs. You take an average 1,800 square foot house. To install bricks or stucco would cost approximately $9,000 for the materials and labor that is involved. To have wood siding installed, depending on the grade of the siding, will cost approximately $7,000, including the painting or staining that'll be needed. Next would be the fiber cement or hardboard siding that would bring the cost of the 1,800 square foot house down to around $5,000, including the painting. Now, the most reasonable and the most preferred these days is the vinyl siding. That same 1,800 square foot house would cost only $4,000 for all materials and labor, everything involved. And of course, with the vinyl siding, there's no painting included. Now, there's 33% of all people that are buying new homes actually prefer vinyl siding on the house. Now, that compares to 23% for wood siding, 21% preferring brick, 16% preferring stucco, and the remaining preferring fiber cement, hardboard, aluminum, or some of the many other alternatives that are out there.
Now, let's go outside for Around the Yard with Danny and lawn and garden expert Jennifer Brennan. Brought to you by Scott's Lawn Products, for a great lawn, guaranteed.
I'm preparing to plant this tree in my yard, and Jennifer's giving me some great tips about drainage.
Yes, Danny, it's very important to check the drainage in your soil, and it's easy to do. Just dig a hole, fill it with water, and then time it to see how long it takes to drain. If it drains 2 inches per hour, you have ideal drainage. If not, you don't have good drainage.
Now, what if you have a situation where you're just not getting adequate drainage? Is there any way to remedy that?
There sure is, Danny. You can plant the tree high, which is a term they use, which means you mound the soil up around the root ball and then mulch it, and that helps the plant survive. Or you can also contact your extension agent and find out which trees will survive wet conditions in your area.
Now, is there ever a situation where it drains too rapidly?
Absolutely. Sandy soils are notorious for draining too quickly, and you need to add organic matter. You can add peat moss or shredded bark, and that helps hold the moisture around the root zone and helps the plant survive any drought periods.
Okay.
But Danny, it looks like this is excellent drainage here.
Okay, well, we'll get started. Well, I can see the homeowners took our advice on trimming back their hedges against the handrails. That way this handrail will last a lot longer than the last one did. Now, this house is in great shape as far as the siding's concerned. The homeowner still has a little bit of work on repairing some of the water-damaged spindles and some of the other woodwork. Then a good paint job. This should last for a long time. You know, as we mentioned earlier in the show, the fiber cement siding, when you paint it, will last a lot longer than regular siding. Now, another thing that we didn't mention that you should consider is the architectural design of your house. The siding or exterior surface that you select for your house can really determine the character of the house, so you need to consider that as far as the original architectural look of the house. Now, I hope you enjoyed this week, and I hope we were able to give you some tidbits to consider if you're faced with a project like this. We'll see you next week.